Hi everyone! In this video I'm going to show you how to solve a very simple Kattis problem in the Kattis editor, and then I'm going to show you how to solve that same problem in Visual Studio Code. Okay, so we're going to be working with metronome. You can read the problem description. I'm going to show you the input and the output. So the input is a single integer and the output is a float. So basically we have to take this integer, our input, divide it by 4, and then print that solution. Okay, so our Kattis editor is over here. We can select whatever language we want to solve the problem. I am going to work in Python. So I'm going to select Python 3 from the list here and then start coding. So first, in all of our Kattis problems, we have to read in the input. So I'm going to read in our input. I'll say n equals int, and then I will use the input function to read in the input. And then I'm going to say print n divided by 4. Okay, so once you have your solution, you hit submit, and you'll start to see a bunch of green check marks, and then you know that you've passed all of the test cases that Kattis gives you. Okay, so next we are going to solve this problem in Visual Studio Code. So a problem like this that's so simple, you really don't need to solve it in Visual Studio Code. But as the problems get more difficult and the input gets more involved, you want to work in Visual Studio Code or really any editor so that you can use the debugging capabilities of that editor. Okay, so here we are over in Visual Studio Code. So here we're going to read our input from a file. Okay, so if we used that input function that we used in the Kattis editor, we would have to put our input through the terminal. So if you have one integer, that's fine, but as your input gets more involved, you don't want to type that in by hand. Okay, so over here we're going to create a file. We'll call it test.txt, and this is where we're going to store our input for our Kattis problems. So the first input for that problem was 16, so I'm going to put it in test.txt. Then I have a folder here, intro. I'm going to create a Python file that I'll use to solve the problem. I'll call it metronome. Okay, so here we're going to put our solution, but we're going to read our input from a file. So to do that, we're going to input the sys library, and now we're going to redirect our standard input. So instead of it coming from the terminal, it's going to come from a file. So we'll say sys.standardin equals open our test.txt file. Okay, so now we're going to read in our input. So we're going to use our sys.standardin, and we'll use the readLine function to read it in, convert it to an integer, and then we will divide it by 4 and print it out. Okay, so let's test this. Okay, so our output is 4.0. That's what we're expecting. There's 2 test cases here. So let's take the second test case. Let's put that in our file. Now let's run our Python file again. Our output is 24.75, and that is the output that we're expecting. Okay, so now we can take this solution. We're going to copy it, bring it over to the Kattis editor, but we want to make sure that we comment out, so we can do that here. Let's comment out where we redirect the input to a file. Okay, so you want to make sure that this is commented out because Kattis does not read the input from test.txt, so you can't have that in your solution. Okay, so we'll submit it. We should see our green check marks, and then we know that we're good. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so that's all. In the next video, I will show you how to set this up using Java and Eclipse. So good luck.